Okay, I want to start with a fact about your own existence. It's something so simple, so direct, that once you really get it, well, it can change pretty much everything.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Every single thing you've ever known, every sight, every sound, every person you've loved, every thought that's crossed your mind, it's all appeared inside your awareness. You've never, not once, taken a peek outside of it to see what the world is like when you're not there. You can't, because the moment you check, that's just another experience happening in consciousness. And look, this isn't some abstract philosophy. It is the most basic, undeniable fact of your life.
So that brings us to the real mystery, doesn't it? We know all this experience is happening, but who or what is it happening to? What is this you that feels like it's located somewhere behind your eyes, looking out at everything?
All right, let's really dig into this. Because this might sound like a question for 2 a.m. in a college dorm room, but it's actually one of the absolute biggest, most profound challenges facing modern science and philosophy today.
There's actually a name for it. Philosophers call it the hard problem of consciousness, and it's this. We can map the brain, we can see which neurons fire when you see the color red or fall in love, but none of that data, not a single bit of it, explains why it feels like something to see red. Why isn't your brain just an incredibly complex biological computer processing all this data in total darkness with nobody home?
And this is where it gets really fascinating. You've got what scientists call the easy problems, and I'm using air quotes here because they are incredibly difficult. But they're problems of mechanism. How does the brain do stuff? How does it process language? We could imagine one day figuring that out. But the hard problem is a totally different kind of question. It's not about what the brain is doing, it's about why there's an inner, subjective, felt experience of it doing it at all. It's the mystery of feeling itself.
But here's the thing. Science and its instruments aren't the only tools we've ever used to investigate this. For thousands of years, another kind of investigator has been tackling this problem. Not with brain scanners, but with the focused power of their own attention.
Now, these weren't just philosophers spinning out theories. You should think of them more like radical scientists of the mind. They weren't interested in beliefs. They wanted direct, observable data from their own experience. And what's crazy is that across totally different cultures, separated by centuries and continents with literally zero contact, they started coming back with very, very similar reports.
So, the first report comes in from ancient India. The sages of the Vedanta tradition said that when you really trace that feeling of I all the way back to its source, you discover something amazing. It's not a separate little self at all. In fact, it's identical to the fundamental consciousness of the entire universe. So, finding number one, the self is everything. But then, another group of these inner explorers, the early Buddhists, they come back with a finding that sounds like the polar opposite. They said, we looked, and there is no self to be found anywhere. All you find are these temporary, shifting clouds of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Nothing solid, nothing permanent. So, which one is it?
Okay, so we've got one team saying you're everything, and another team saying you're nothing. And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this is some Eastern philosophy stuff, but check this out. Let's jump to 13th century Germany. A Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart, comes to basically the same conclusion as the Vedantins. He's saying that the very awareness, the I that is looking out from you right now, is the exact same awareness that God is looking through.
This is just stunning, right? We have reports from Hindu sages in India, Buddhist monks, a German Christian mystic, all pointing to the same strange reality about the self. And then, from the Sufi tradition, the poet Rumi just nails the feeling of this discovery. All that seeking you were doing, all that knocking on some door to find God or reality, you were already inside the room. The knocking was coming from the inside.
Okay, so we've heard from the experts. But this isn't just about history. We can turn this into a direct experiment, something you can do for yourself, right here, right now. This is where it gets personal.
And I'm serious. Don't just think about it. Actually turn your attention around 180 degrees and look. Look for the you that feels like the center of your universe. Can you find it? Can you put your finger on the one who is looking?
So let's start with the most obvious suspect, right? I'm this body. It feels solid. It feels like me. It's the most common sense answer.
But hang on a second. Just notice this. You are aware of your body. You feel the sensations in your hands and feet. You see your body. So the body is an object appearing within your field of awareness. Whatever you are, you have to be the space in which the body is appearing. Think about it. A movie screen can't be one of the characters in the movie, right?
Okay. So if I'm not my body, then I must be my thoughts, my mind, my inner monologue. That's got to be the real me.
But again, the same logic applies, doesn't it? You are aware of your thoughts. A thought pops up, you notice it, and then it vanishes. But something remains. The awareness that was there before the thought and is still there after the thought is unchanged. So what is that awareness?
And this direct, simple line of questioning leads to a conclusion that is, frankly, kind of shocking at first. But according to these ancient traditions, it's also the most liberating discovery a person can make.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. When you actually look for a solid, separate, continuous self, you find nothing. And not like a scary black void, just the simple absence of a thing. There is seeing, but no seer. There is hearing, but no hearer. There's thinking, but no separate thinker in charge of it all.
So what does that mean? It means the self isn't a thing that you are. It's an activity that the mind does. It's a habit. It's a story that your brain is constantly telling itself, weaving together memories and plans and sensations into a character called me. And it's an incredibly useful story for getting through the day. But it's a story. When you look for its actual substance, it just isn't there.
All right, so if the self is just an illusion, a story, what then? Does the world go gray? Do you just stop caring about anything? No, actually it's the complete opposite.
This classic Zen saying just captures the paradox perfectly. The actual activities of life don't change. You still have to do the dishes, pay your taxes, sit in traffic. The what of life stays the same. What changes is the how. It's a difference between feeling like there's a separate me who is being burdened by all these tasks, and life just, well, happening through you.
And this, really, is why any of this matters. Because when that hard, imaginary line between me over here and you over there starts to get a little blurry, a little transparent, something amazing happens. The whole architecture of selfishness and indifference just starts to crumble. The suffering of another person is no longer happening to someone else. And what arises totally naturally, without you having to force it, is a deep and genuine compassion.
So look, the reports are in. The map has been drawn by investigators who spent their entire lives on this question. But a map isn't the territory. The ultimate question isn't whether you believe any of this. It's an invitation. It's a challenge to run the experiment for yourself and to see what you find when you truly, honestly look.